Welcome, dear friends, to the enchanting world of words, the Millennium Library. Here, memories take us back to warm nights where grandmothers and mothers wove the most wonderful tales. Our only wish now is for you to listen, to dive deep into the heart of the stories that shaped our minds and souls. We have embarked on this unique project, the Millennium Library, to gather for you a treasure trove of timeless novels and stories, and present them to you with voices full of warmth and sweetness. It is a legacy we are creating together between humanity and artificial intelligence to remain a testament to the power of words and the magic of storytelling throughout the ages. We hope you find in it what delights your souls and enriches your imagination. If this work touches your hearts, we would be delighted if you share it with your loved ones. And remember, your support lies in liking this segment and leaving your comments which illuminate our path. We are here to grow by you and with you. With sincere regards from the Millennium Library. I and Somai. Once two poor men named Ramai and Somai came to a village and took some waste land from the headman and plowed it and sowed millet. And their plow was only drawn by cows, and their plowshare was very small, what is called a stumpy share. And when they had sowed a little, the rains came on, and Somai gave up cultivation and took to fishing, and for a time he made very good profits by catching and selling fish. And he did not trouble even to reap the millet he had sown. He laughed at Ramai, who was toiling away clearing more land and sowing maize and rice. He used to go and look at him and tell him that he would never get a crop, while he had nothing better than a stumpy plow. It would probably break to pieces one day, and then he would be helpless. He had much better take to fishing, which gave quick and easy returns. Ramai made no answer, but when the rains were over, there was no more fishing to be done, and Somai was left to starve and had to go from village to village begging. But Ramai reaped his millet and lived on that till his maize was ripe, and then his maize supported him until his rice was ripe, and he always had plenty to eat. And to show his despite for Somai, after he had had a good dinner, he would come out in front of his house and call out, "What of the stumpy share now?" Every day after eating, he would come out and say, "At first I worked hard and suffered hunger, but now I am eating in happiness. And you were happy then, but now you are starving." The two brothers. There were once two brothers who were constantly quarreling, and one afternoon, after a heated quarrel, the younger brother asked the villagers to come and judge between them. The villagers agreed to meet the next morning. At cockcrow the next day, the elder brother went to the other's house and woke him up and said, "Brother, this is a bad business. You have called in the villagers, and they will certainly fine us both for quarreling. It would be much better for us to save the money and spend it on a pig, then we and our families could have a "I quite agree," said the younger brother. "But now I have summoned the villagers. What can be done? If I merely tell them to go away, they will never come again when I summon them." The elder brother said, "I have a plan. When they come, they will ask how the quarrel began and what abusive words I used. and then you must tell them that that is a point which they have to decide, and then they will be able to do nothing and will go. The younger brother agreed to this, and when the villagers came and asked what the quarrel was about, he said, "Don't you know what the quarrel was? That was the very matter I wanted you to decide. If you don't know, how can you judge about it?" And this answer he repeated to all their questioning. Then they got angry and said that he was mocking them, and they declined to give any decision, but said that the brothers must give them dinner, as they had detained them so long. But the brothers flatly declined to do so, as no decision had been given, and the villagers went away grumbling, while the brothers bought a pig with the money they had saved, and had a jolly feast. And as they ate, the elder brother said, "See what a good plan mine was! But for it, we should now have been feasting others at our expense." The Three Fools. Once upon a time, three men were sitting at the foot of a tamarind tree, and a stranger came up to them with a bunch of plantains on his shoulder, and he put the plantains on the ground in front of them, and bowed and went away. Thereupon the three men began to quarrel as to who was to have the plantains. Each said that they were his, because it was to him that the man had bowed. So they started calling each other fool, and after quarreling for some time, one said, "Well, yes, I admit that I am a great fool," and the other two asked why he thought himself a fool, and he said, "Well, one day my wife went to the jungle with the other village women to get firewood and left our baby in my charge. As she was along, the child became hungry and began to cry. I walked him about, but he would not stop crying. I tried to feed him with rice, and with rice water, and with gur, and with cow's milk, but he would not eat or stop crying. I was in despair when his mother came back and took him up and gave him the breast, and the child was quiet at once. Seeing this, I said to my wife, human milk must be sweeter than anything else. My wife said, "Who can say whether it is nice? We all drink it when we are infants, but when we grow up, we cannot say what it is like." Then I said that I would try what it was like, and I sucked her breast and found that it was much sweeter than cow's milk. After that I formed the habit, and used to drink her milk every day. And as I left none for the child, it died soon afterwards of starvation. This shows what a fool I am. Then one of the other men said, "But I am a bigger fool than you." And they asked him in what way, and he said, "I was married and was very much in love with my wife. Once, when she had gone on a visit to her father's, I went to fetch her home, and she was got up in all her finery, with her hair well dressed. On our way home it began to rain, and we took shelter in a village. And when the shower was over, we went on, and we came to a river which was in flood from the rain. The water was up to a man's armpits, and I decided to carry my wife across, so that the arta on her feet might not get washed off. So I took her on my shoulder, and to prevent her feet getting wet, I held her feet uppermost, and as her head was under water when I got across, I found that she had been drowned. And if I had not been such a fool, she would not have been killed. Then the third man said, "And I also am a fool. I had quarreled with my own family, so I lived with my wife in a house alone at the end of the village, and we had no children. Now I was very fond of smoking, and one night I wanted a light for my hookah, but there was none in the house. So I started to go and ask for a light from some neighbor. But as it was very dark, I did not like to leave my wife all alone, nor did I like to send her out alone to ask for the light. So at last I took my hookah in my hand and set my wife astride on my shoulder and went round from house to house like that, asking for a light, and all the villagers laughed like anything. So I am a fool. Then they agreed that they were all three fools, and had better divide the plantains equally among them and go home. And that is what they did. The cure for laziness. There was once a man who lived happily with his wife, but she was very lazy. When work in the fields was at its height, she would pretend to be ill. In June and July, she would begin to moan as if in pain, and when everyone else had gone off to work, she would eat any rice that they had left over, or if there were none, would cook some for herself. Her father-in-law decided to call in some ohas to examine her, and if they could not cure her, then to send her back to her father. So he called in two ohas and told them to do their best, as he did not want the woman's relations to complain that she had not been properly treated. So the first oha felt her pulse and smiled and said nothing, and the second oha felt her pulse and smiled and said nothing. And when the father-in-law asked them if they knew what was the matter, they answered that the illness was very serious, and medicines must be applied. The father-in-law said yes, but you must get the medicines, or tell me exactly what is wanted, and I will arrange for it. This conversation took place before the woman. The Ojas said, "Very well, we will do what you want, but before applying the medicine, we shall have to do some incantations." The father-in-law answered, "Do whatever is necessary to make a good job of it. Don't spare anything. Try and get everything ready by tomorrow, for we are in great difficulty. I do not like to leave the patient alone in the house, and yet I cannot spare anyone to look after her." The Ojas promised and got up and went out with the father-in-law, and in the village street they told him that laziness was all that was the matter with the woman, but that they knew a medicine which would cure her. So they went to the jungle and dug up two very big tubers of the tira plant, as big as pumpkins, and in the evening they went to the man's house and told him that they had found the medicine, and that the whole household was to come to the crossroads at the end of the village very early the next morning with the patient, and they would exorcise the disease and apply remedies. At cock-crow the next morning, the two ohas brought the two tubers and put them down at the end of the village street, and then went to the house where the sick woman lived and awoke the inmates. And they borrowed a pot of water and some vermilion and an old winnowing fan, and then they all went to the place where the tubers had been left, and the ojas made the patient sit on the winnowing fan facing the east, and painted her with vermilion. Then they waved pig's dung round her head, and tied the two tubers round her neck, and told her to walk up and down the village street 3 times, and that would remove the spell that was on her. So the woman began to walk up the village street, and everyone laughed at her, and the children ran after her, and smacked her, and jumped, and shouted for joy, and the ohas called out to her, "You must not take off the tubers until you are cured." The woman walked up and down twice, But then she was so ashamed at being laughed at that. She threw away the tubers and ran off home. Then they all laughed the more, and followed her to the house. And the Oshas asked whether she was cured, that she had taken off the remedies they had applied. She only smiled in answer, and they told her to take care, because if she ever got ill again, they would apply the same remedy. But from that day, the woman completely recovered and did her fair share of all the work. Conclusion of our journey. And so, we reach the conclusion of our journey for today, within the unending worlds of words and the never folding pages of knowledge. We have spent an enjoyable and beneficial time together within the embrace of Millennium Library, where voices meet tales and a new cultural legacy is forged. We hope you have enjoyed every moment and delved deeply into the dimensions of the story or novel we presented to you. Always remember that this grand edifice, Millennium Library, is the result of a unique collaboration between human creativity and the profound depth of artificial intelligence. Our goal is to enrich your ears and minds with the treasures of world literature and to make knowledge accessible to everyone, while preserving the ownership rights of Millennium Library for this distinctive production. Don't forget to follow us and activate the notification bell to receive all new content. And share this podcast with everyone around you, for knowledge is light, and together we illuminate the paths. Until we meet again in a future episode and a new literary adventure, may you be in the care and keeping of Allah, and within the realm of immortal words. Millennium Library, where tales are embodied, knowledge is narrated, and creativity is immortalized.